He drank from the forbidden fountain, then heard, "You don't know what you've become." The light from the well shimmered like liquid stars, pooling over Kai's fingers as he crouched beside it. The crystalline basin hummed low and musical, a sound that pressed against his ribs more than his ears. Every drop in that fountain caught the glow of the alien city around him. The spires shaped like frozen thunderbolts, the walkways carved from glassy stone that pulsed softly beneath his boots. He'd come farther than any human before him, farther even than his father's maps had dared to mark. The palace of Arendal rose around him like a cathedral built for gods, not guests. And yet in its heart the well waited for him alone. He reached out, trembling, feeling the air swirl cold and alive around his hand. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads. Kai had not meant to drink. He'd come for knowledge, for the archives said to be buried beneath the palace, not for whatever secret this place offered in its shining waters. But the thirst in him was more than physical. It was the pull of something ancient, whispering to his DNA. The air carried scents of ozone and rain and a sweetness like snow melting on stone. His reflection trembled in the glowing surface, a young man unshaven, eyes pale as ice and full of exhaustion. Around him the alien guardian stood silent, tall, blue-skinned, eyes like molten gold, features rippling faintly, as if the skin itself breathed. She said nothing, but her presence pressed against his mind like static. She had told him once in that fluid voice that the well was not meant for mortals. He dipped his hands into the light. It was cold enough to sting, sharp enough to feel like it was cutting memory itself. The fluid clung to his skin as if aware, wrapping his fingers in threads of luminescence. He lifted it toward his mouth almost without thought. When he drank, the taste was impossible to name. Metal and honey and wind all at once. It burned like knowledge forced into veins. The city seemed to hold its breath. The alien woman stepped forward, her voice breaking through the hush. "Human, stop!" But the sound came too late. The last drop slid down his throat, and the hum of the well turned into a roar, his vision fractured. Light poured from his mouth and eyes, spilling across the marble floor like spilled stars. Pain lanced through him, every nerve singing in strange harmony. He felt himself stretched, his mind pulled across distances that had no measure. For a heartbeat he saw everything. The shape of the city from orbit, the orbit from the galaxy's edge, the galaxy as a pattern of fire in a cosmic tide. His heart thundered as if keeping time with the universe. He fell to his knees, gasping, palms pressed to the glowing floor. His body felt both vast and fragile, as if the wrong breath might break him open into light. When the storm inside him dimmed, he opened his eyes to find the alien kneeling across from him. Her name was Sira, he remembered now, though she had never given it. It was a name he should not have known. Her expression was not anger, not even surprise. It was sorrow, deep and old. "You have no idea what you just became," she whispered. The words trembled in the air, heavy enough to bend it. Kai's throat ached as he tried to speak, but his voice was gone. Only the echo of her words remained, curling like smoke through his thoughts. He looked at his hands. The veins beneath his skin glowed faintly, pulsing with the same rhythm as the well behind him. Sira rose, turning toward the towering archway that opened into the deeper halls of the palace. "You were not chosen," she said softly, almost to herself. "Yet the well has accepted you. It will not let go now." The light around her shimmered, scattering into brief constellations that hung in the air before dissolving. Kai tried to stand, legs shaking, heart hammering. Every breath felt thick with power, alien, electric, alive. His hearing sharpened until he could sense the movement of dust across the floor, the rhythm of Sira's pulse, even the faint harmonic tone of the energy conduits running beneath the marble. The world had become too loud, too close, too alive. "What did it do to me?" he managed at last, his voice hoarse, every word vibrating through his skull. Sira turned back, her eyes searching his face. "The well does not give power," she said. "It awakens what was always there. In our kind, it returns memory." "In yours?" She hesitated, the word trembling on her lips like something fragile. "It makes you something new." Her gaze flicked toward the city beyond the windows, where the alien lights rose and fell in rhythm like breathing. "And something dangerous." He stumbled after her as she moved down the corridor. The palace seemed to sense his change, walls rippling faintly as he passed, light bending subtly toward him. His footsteps echoed in patterns he did not recognize but somehow understood, like hearing words from a forgotten language. "Sira," he said, the name feeling heavy on his tongue. "Why bring me here if you feared this?" She paused beneath a column carved from living crystal. "Because we needed hope," she said. "Your species is reckless, stubborn, fragile, and yet unbreakable in ways we are not." The well saw that. Her golden eyes flicked toward him, soft with something almost like admiration. "But I did not think it would choose." They reached a balcony overlooking the lower tiers of the city. Below them, thousands of luminous towers stretched toward the clouds, each connected by threads of light that pulsed like veins. Far beyond, a dark storm brewed at the horizon, massive, circular, alive. "The Mael," Sira said, following his gaze. "It grows every cycle. We built the well to stop it, to contain what it devours. But it needs a conduit. One of us can hold it for only a moment before burning away. We thought no being could survive it." She looked at him then, truly looked as though measuring the shape of his soul. "Perhaps we were wrong." The wind rose, carrying the scent of ozone again. Kai gripped the railing, feeling the city hum through his skin. "You think I'm supposed to fight that?" he asked, nodding toward the storm. "I don't even know what I am." Sira tilted her head, listening to something only she could hear. "Neither did the first of my kind when they touched the well. Knowledge comes with pain. Purpose follows survival." Her hand brushed the air near his arm, not quite touching, but close enough that he felt warmth radiate from her. "You must learn to contain what the well gave you, or it will unmake you before the male ever could." They descended through the palace's inner halls, past statues that shimmered between stone and living form. As they walked, the walls whispered faint sounds, memories of voices long gone, or perhaps the palace itself remembering its creators. Each whisper brushed against Kai's mind, feeding him fragments of history, a civilization that had lived on starlight, whose hearts beat in rhythm with the cosmos. He saw flashes, hands of blue fire shaping worlds, laughter in impossible gravity, tears falling into silver seas. And then extinction, slow and beautiful. He staggered, breath hitching. Sira steadied him with one hand on his shoulder. "The well is showing you what it remembers," she said gently. "It connects all who drink. You are not alone in its song now." They reached a vast chamber where a single column of light descended from the ceiling into a basin below. Sira gestured for him to step closer. "This is the heart nexus," she explained. "It regulates the city's breath. If your mind can align with it, perhaps the well's energy will quiet." He closed his eyes, focusing on the hum that filled the air. It matched the rhythm of his pulse, the same one he'd felt since drinking. Slowly, he exhaled and reached out. The light met his fingertips like a living thing, flowing up his arm in a spiral. The pain came again, but this time he did not pull away. He breathed through it, guiding it as if it were an extension of himself. The light steadied, brightening until the chamber glowed like a sunrise. When he opened his eyes, Sira's expression had changed. There was awe there now and a flicker of fear. "You're sinking," she said softly. "No human should be able to do that." He smiled faintly, though it hurt. "Guess we're good at doing what we shouldn't." The words came with a surge of warmth, pride laced with exhaustion. The glow receded into his skin, fading to a faint pulse at his throat. For the first time since drinking, he felt a measure of control. He could still sense the energy inside him, but it no longer tore at his mind. It was waiting, listening. Sira turned toward the outer door. "Then you must see what waits beyond the palace. The male feeds on thought, on connection itself. If you truly are what the well made you, then perhaps you can stand where none of us could." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the calm mask she wore. He followed her through the doors and out into the open air. The city stretched below like a dream of light and glass, its people, tall, luminous, shifting, moving in patterns that formed symbols too vast to grasp. They looked up as he passed, whispers rippling through them like wind across grass. For the first time, Kai realized they were afraid. He wanted to speak to them, to tell them he wasn't their savior, that he didn't even understand himself. But the well thrummed in his chest, and somewhere deep inside, a voice not his own whispered, "They will see soon enough." He shivered, unsure if it was the wind or something far colder. Sira led him toward a circular platform at the city's edge, where streams of light converged into a single beam that reached into the sky. "A transit gate," she said. It will take us to the outer rim, where the male's reach begins. The platform hummed as they stepped on. Kai felt the energy rise through his feet, connecting with the pulse inside him. For a heartbeat, he thought he heard the stars themselves breathing. The light consumed them, and the city vanished. When it cleared, they stood on a barren cliff of black glass, overlooking a storm that filled the horizon. The mile was closer now, a vortex of colorless energy, turning slowly but endlessly, swallowing the clouds themselves. At its core, something moved, vast and formless. The air tasted of static and fear. "This is what remains of our world," Sira said quietly. "The mile devours not matter, but memory. It erases what it touches. Every cycle, more of us vanish into silence." Kai stared, heart racing. He could feel the pull of it, faint but insistent, like a gravity of thought. "And you think I can stop it?" he asked. Sira's gaze met his, fierce and uncertain. "I think you already have begun." The air around the mile felt alive, a current of memory and static that clawed at Kai's mind with invisible fingers. He stood at the edge of the cliff beside Sira, wind tugging at his jacket, the storm before them rolling like an ocean made of lightless fire. The horizon bent under its pull, clouds spiraling inward, sound breaking apart into whispers and echoes. Somewhere deep in that storm, something was watching. Kai could feel its awareness brushing against his thoughts. Curious, hungry, ancient. His heartbeat synced with the hum of the well inside him, two rhythms locking into a pulse that wasn't entirely human. He clenched his fists, focusing on the warmth in his chest, grounding himself in the memory of earth, of home, of the smell of rain on soil. It steadied him, just enough to keep the alien song at bay. Sira stood silent beside him, her eyes glowing faintly gold in the reflected light of the vortex. "Do you feel it?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "It's not just pulling matter," he said, voice strained. "It's pulling thought. Every time it turns, I can feel things vanish. Names, moments, faces." He hesitated, realizing one of the faces from his own memory, a friend from the ship, was already blurring. Sira's gaze tightened. That is its hunger. The mile consumes identity. Even our records cannot survive its reach. She drew a small device from her belt, a crystalline shard that unfolded into a floating map of shifting patterns. There is a rupture ahead, where its boundary weakens. If the well's energy in you can resonate with it, you may be able to slow its growth. Kai almost laughed, but the sound came out hollow. "Slow it. You make it sound like I'm a battery." Sira's lips curved faintly. "No. You are a bridge. The well connected you to the fabric we lost long ago, the field that once tied our kind to the living cosmos. That link was broken. You may be able to reopen it." Her tone carried both faith and fear, and Kai couldn't tell which weighed heavier. He turned back to the storm, breathing deeply. The well within him stirred, answering some unseen call. "Then let's find your rupture," he said, and started down the path carved from black glass. The terrain changed as they descended. The ground pulsed faintly beneath their boots, veins of light flickering like something alive struggling beneath its surface. The wind carried fragments of voices, children laughing, a song, then static. Kai stumbled once, overwhelmed by flashes of memory that weren't his. A blue-skinned woman sculpting air into music, a city of crystal spires crumbling into silence. He gasped, gripping his temples. Sira's hand found his arm. "The Mael is trying to unmake you," she warned. "Hold to what is yours. Anchor yourself in your humanity." He nodded weakly, focusing on her voice, her warmth, the simple contact of another living being. Slowly, the storm's whispers receded into background noise. "You talk like you've seen this before," he murmured. Her expression dimmed. "I have. It took my sister." They reached the valley floor, where the air shimmered with heatless light. The ground was broken, fissures glowing with pale energy. At the center stood a monolith, half stone, half translucent crystal, rising from the scar like a tooth of some buried god. "That is the breach," Sira said, "where the mile first touched our world. It never stopped spreading." Kai felt his pulse quicken as the well inside him resonated with the monolith's hum. "It's calling to me." "Then answer carefully," she said. "Once you open that channel, there will be no barrier between you and it." He took a slow breath, stepped forward, and laid his hand against the monolith. The moment he touched it, the world inverted. His vision filled with light, not white, but every color he could not name. The ground vanished beneath him, the sky folded inward. He floated in a space made of thought and vibration, where distance had no meaning. Voices surged around him, millions, overlapping, pleading, remembering. We built the well, we fell, we forgot. He saw the Erindal before the fall, beings of light and sound, walking between stars as easily as stepping between rooms. They had shaped worlds with harmony, then torn themselves apart, seeking control of the song. The Mael was born from that discord, a wound in creation itself. And now, through him, it recognized its first mirror in 1,000 ages. Kai screamed as the Mael's consciousness brushed his own. It was vast beyond comprehension, but not mindless. It wanted him, wanted the clarity in his human thought, the pattern of will that resisted dissolution. It tried to draw him in, to add his identity to its storm. He fought back, clinging to memory. His mother's laugh, the smell of engine grease on his father's jacket, the taste of cheap coffee before his first mission. The well flared in his chest, light bursting from his skin. The Mael recoiled, its tendrils of thought writhing. For a heartbeat, silence filled the void. Then a voice spoke, not Sira's, not his own. "You are the echo we left behind." The words were inside him, heavy and cold. "The well chose you to finish what we began." He tried to speak, but the light swallowed sound. The Mael's form shifted, condensing into a spiral of shadow and radiance. End the song, or become it. Then the vision shattered, and he fell. Sira caught him as he hit the ground, the impact knocking the breath from his lungs. Light still bled faintly from his veins. She pressed her hand to his forehead, chanting something in her language, a rhythm that steadied the chaos in his mind. His breathing slowed. "What did you see?" she asked softly. He opened his eyes, staring at the storm above. "Everything. They made the Mael. It's not a monster, it's their guilt turned inside out." Sira's face twisted with disbelief, then sorrow. "Then it cannot be destroyed." "Maybe not," he said, "but maybe it can be forgiven." They camped near the breach as the false night fell. There was no real sun here, only the slow dimming of the storm's light. Kai sat staring into the glow of the fissures, feeling the well hum like a heartbeat inside him. Sira sat across from him, silent for a long time before saying, "When I was young, my sister told me humans were children of chance, that your kind burned too fast to endure. But perhaps that was your gift. You never learned to accept the inevitable." He smiled faintly. "We call that stubbornness." She tilted her head. "We call it defiance of entropy. Perhaps that is why the well chose you." Later, when he closed his eyes, he dreamed, not of Earth, but of the storm. He was standing within it, surrounded by endless reflections of himself. Each one whispered a different truth, a different memory. Some were him as he was now. Others were older, harder, or gone entirely. One looked at him and said, "You cannot save them all, you can only remember." When he woke, Sira was already standing, watching the horizon. "The Mael shifted in the night," she said. "It's moving toward the city." Kai rose, heart thudding. "How much time do we have?" "Hours, maybe less." She turned to him, eyes fierce. "If it reaches the palace, the well will be consumed, and with it, everything it ever touched." "Including me," he said quietly. She didn't deny it. They moved quickly, using the transit gates that still functioned among the ruins. Each jump tore at Kai's mind a little more, the Mael's influence gnawing at the edges of his consciousness. By the time they reached the outer causeway, the city was already trembling. The sky above it had split open, colors bleeding together in impossible patterns. Beings of light ran through the streets, their voices raised in a harmonic song that tried and failed to hold back the encroaching dark. Sira led him to the palace steps, where the well still shimmered faintly. "You must merge with it," she said. "Become its heart. Anchor the field before the mail reaches it." He stared at her, realizing what she wasn't saying. "And if I fail? Then there will be nothing left to fail." He stepped toward the well. Its waters pulsed faster now, reacting to his presence. He could feel it recognize him, welcome him. The surface parted like breath, revealing depths that were not depths at all but layers of folded reality. Sira's voice reached him, distant and trembling. "Kai, whatever happens, remember who you are." He nodded once, then dove. Light swallowed everything. He fell through himself, through countless versions of his life, choices made and unmade. He saw Earth as it was, as it might have been, as it could be again. He saw the Arindal watching from the stars, their history repeating like a song trapped in echo. And at the center of it all, he saw the Mile, vast and waiting. It spoke again. "You cannot fight what you are part of." But Kai's voice, when it came, was steady. "Maybe not. But I can change the tune." He reached deeper, drawing on the well until his veins felt like fire. The storm roared in answer. Sira watched from the edge of the basin as the palace shook. The light pouring from the well reached the ceiling, spreading across the city like dawn. Her people fell to their knees, singing as the air filled with resonance. The Mile hesitated at the city's edge, its vast form rippling with confusion. Kai's presence within the well grew brighter, his thoughts a steady rhythm against the storm's chaos. "Hold," she whispered, not sure if he could hear. "Just hold." The floor cracked beneath her feet as energy surged upward, bending the air into shimmering arcs. Inside the well, Kai felt himself breaking apart, not dying, but dissolving into something larger. Every thought he had was mirrored 1,000-fold, each one echoed back by the well's ancient song. He reached through the link toward the Mael, not to destroy it, but to speak. "You were born from pain," he sent. "You are not the pain itself." For a moment the storm paused. He felt its confusion, its memory of being whole. The light within him pulsed stronger, wrapping around the Mael's edges like a hand around a wound. He could feel it resisting, tearing, but he refused to let go. "You can stop," he whispered aloud, though no air carried the sound. "I can remember who you were." The Mael screamed, if such a thing could scream, and the world shook. Sira fell to her knees as the city's towers bent, their crystalline forms warping under the pressure. Light burst from the well in a wave that rolled outward, freezing the Mael's motion. For an instant all sound ceased. Then slowly, impossibly, the storm began to recede. Its edges unraveled into threads of light that drifted upward, fading into the sky like smoke under sunlight. Sira rose, tears streaking her face, watching as the impossible happened. "Kai," she whispered, voice trembling with awe. "You did it." But when the well dimmed, he was gone. The silence that followed the Mael's retreat was worse than the storm itself. The city hung suspended in a hush so complete it seemed the air had forgotten how to move. Sira stood by the darkened well, her reflection fractured in the glassy floor, her chest rising with each uneven breath. The luminous towers beyond were dim now, their energy threads gone pale. Somewhere deep inside the structure, the heartbeats of the city's surviving systems pulsed irregularly, as though the world were learning to breathe again. "Kai?" she whispered, her voice barely sound at all. The water did not answer. Only faint ripples shimmered across its surface, fading into stillness. She waited for hours, perhaps days. Time meant little under the dim, shifting light that never became dawn. The Arindal who remained came and went in reverent silence, leaving offerings of crystal shards at the well's edge. They bowed their heads to her, calling her keeper now, though she had never asked for the title. When the last of them departed, she knelt alone, tracing her hand over the rim where the human had once stood. "You said you could change the tune," she murmured. "So where are you, singer?" The water quivered faintly under her touch, a tremor too small for the eye to catch but deep enough for her to feel in her bones. Beneath the palace floor, light moved again. It began as a single thread of blue, weaving through the cracks in the marble, spiraling upward like a living vein. Sira rose, heart hammering as the well stirred. The glow was softer now, no violent flare, no blinding radiance, but warm, pulsing in rhythm with a heartbeat she recognized. "Kai," she breathed. The surface broke, and for a moment she saw only light. Then a hand emerged, human, trembling, dripping with luminescence that faded as air touched it. He hauled himself from the basin, gasping, clothes torn, skin marked with lines of faintly glowing veins. His eyes opened, not blazing as before, but clear, focused, alive. "Did it work?" he asked hoarsely. Sira let out a laugh that cracked halfway between relief and disbelief. "You're asking me?" She stepped forward, catching him as he stumbled from the edge. The heat of his skin felt strange. Warmer, steadier, more anchored than before. "The mile retreated," she said. "The city still stands. It's quieter now. So yes, I think it worked." He leaned against her, breath ragged. "Then why does it feel like I'm still falling?" "Because you haven't stopped," she replied softly. "You've just learned how to steer." They moved together through the palace halls. Where once the crystal walls hummed with ceaseless energy, now they shimmered faintly like cooling embers. Outside, the horizon was empty. No vortex, no storm, only pale mist stretching into the void. Yet Kai could still feel it, a faint echo at the edge of perception, the memory of the mile neither gone nor alive, waiting. "It's not over," he said quietly. Sira glanced at him. "No," she agreed, "but it listens now. That may be enough." He looked down at his hands. The faint glow beneath his skin pulsed slower now, matching his heartbeat. "I can still hear it, the well, the male, the city. They're all singing the same note, just quieter." "Then you are their bridge still," she said. "And you must decide what world that bridge leads to." Days passed, if days they could be called in a realm without sun. The city began to wake again, slowly. The surviving Erendal rebuilt what they could, their songs of repair resonating through the structures. Kai helped where possible, though his presence still unsettled some. Children whispered that he was half ghost, half god. He didn't correct them. Sira stayed near, teaching him to channel the well's energy without burning himself apart. "It answers intention," she explained one evening as they stood by the repaired terrace. "Not command. The more you try to force it, the less it yields." He nodded, focusing on the shimmer of light between his palms. "Like people," he said. "Exactly," she replied, "and just as unpredictable." Despite the calm unease lingered. The mile's remnants haunted his dreams, whispers of unformed thought, pieces of what it had devoured. Sometimes he woke speaking in voices that were not his own. Sira would sit beside him until the tremors passed, singing low melodies that soothed the storm in his blood. One night he turned to her and asked, "What happens to me now? I'm not fully human anymore, am I?" She considered this for a long moment before answering. "You are still what you choose to be. The well didn't replace your nature. It revealed how flexible it was." He frowned. "Flexible?" "Humans adapt," she said. "It's what you've always done best. You remake yourselves faster than any species we've known. Now you're remaking the cosmos in the same way." Her words settled uneasily in his chest. The next day he ventured beyond the city's edge, drawn by an intuition he couldn't explain. The landscape there had changed. The black glass plains were softer now, threaded with faint vegetation that shimmered like frost. It was as if the world itself had exhaled, after holding its breath for ages. He crouched to touch a sprout that pulsed faintly under his fingers, warmth spreading into his palm. It felt alive in a way that made him think of earth after rain. Behind him, Sira's voice carried on the wind. "So you feel it too?" He looked back. She stood a few meters away, cloak billowing. "The world is remembering how to grow," he said. Maybe it just needed the silence. That night the sky changed. A faint light appeared on the horizon, not the ghostly shimmer of the well, but true light, warm and steady. The Erendal gathered on the terraces, silent in awe. "A star," Sira whispered. "It's been centuries since one shone above this world." Kai felt the warmth of it even from a distance, and something deep within him stirred, a pulse of joy, quiet but fierce. "Guess your world decided to live again," he said. Sira looked at him, eyes bright. "No, Kai, you decided it would." He shook his head, embarrassed. "I just didn't want it to die." "That's all life ever asks," she replied. "Someone to refuse its ending." Later, when the city slept, he walked alone through the palace, tracing the patterns in its walls. Every surface seemed to breathe now, faint waves of light traveling in time with his heartbeat. The well itself glowed softly, calm and deep. He approached its edge, seeing his reflection ripple across the surface. Half human, half something else. "You said I could change the tune," he whispered to the memory of his own voice. "But what if the song doesn't end?" The water shimmered, and for a moment he thought he heard laughter, not mocking but knowing. He smiled faintly. "Yeah," he said. "That sounds like us." The laughter in the water faded into silence, but the peace that followed was not emptiness. It was fullness, a balance restored. Kai sat on the edge of the well, head bowed, breathing slowly. The power within him no longer burned. It flowed gently now, as if the well itself had learned to breathe with him. Around the palace, the faint sounds of life returned, the whisper of wind through corridors, the quiet murmur of repair songs. He lifted his gaze to the ceiling, where the first natural light in centuries filtered down through cracks opened by the miles passing. The air smelled of clean dust and beginnings. Sira found him there, still and thoughtful. "You shouldn't sit so close," she said softly, though her tone held no real warning. He looked back at her, smiling faintly. "If it wanted me gone, it's had plenty of chances." She approached and stood beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the calm water. "Perhaps it keeps you because it knows what comes next." "Next?" he echoed. "I thought this was the end." "No," she said. "Endings are only for songs that stop being sung. This one is changing key." He chuckled quietly, rubbing his neck. "You really can't just say something simple, can you?" "I learned from you," she said, and for the first time since he'd met her, he saw her truly smile. They spent the following weeks exploring the outer ruins, mapping what the Mael had erased and what had survived. Kai's senses reached farther each day, attuning to the world's subtle rhythms. He could sense the roots beneath the soil, the echo of old technology humming miles below, even the faint tremor of the sky's returning pulse. The well had woven itself into him, but not as a parasite. More like a compass pointing toward equilibrium. "You're not the same as when you arrived," Sira said one morning, as they watched the horizon brighten with dawn light. "Neither is your world," he replied. "We rebuilt each other." One night while the city slept, he woke to a whisper not from within but beyond. The voice of the male, fainter, gentler. "You carried our burden. You remembered us. We are less than we were, but we are at peace." He sat up, heart aching with unexpected tenderness. "Then it was worth it," he said aloud. The voice faded like mist, leaving behind a quiet that felt like gratitude. When Sira found him staring at the stars, he told her nothing. Some songs, he thought, were meant only for their singers. In the months that followed, humans came. The first survey ships found the signal the well now sent across the void, steady, inviting. Kai stood on the platform as their shuttles descended, his figure haloed in the light of 2 rising moons. Sira stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "Your people will not understand what they find here," she said. "They'll try to measure it, map it, take it apart." He smiled faintly. "Probably. But maybe they'll learn something too. And what will you do?" He looked out at the stars. "Guide them if I can. Stop them if I must." She nodded slowly. "Then you are both guardian and lesson." Fitting for a bridge. As the human envoys approached, Kai felt the well hum faintly, not in warning but in recognition. The bond between species, between memory and renewal, was beginning again. He turned to Sira, offering his hand. She hesitated only a moment before taking it, her fingers cool and steady. "Whatever happens," he said, "thank you for believing in what we could be." She met his gaze. "It wasn't belief, Kai, it was hope." The shuttles landed in a flare of light, and the wind from their descent carried the scent of ozone, sharp, alive, familiar. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt truly home. Above them, the newly reborn star shone brighter, its rays scattering across the crystalline city. The well pulsed once in response, a heartbeat shared between worlds, and somewhere deep within its luminous depths, the faint echo of a voice whispered again, not in warning this time, but in wonder. "You still have no idea what you've become." The arrival of the humans changed the rhythm of the city. Ships hung in the pale sky like metal birds, their engines humming a tune that clashed at first with the harmonic pulse of Erindal's rebuilt towers. The locals watched them with wary fascination, luminous forms flickering in and out of visibility as they whispered among themselves. To them, humanity was legend, the reckless species that had once scattered sparks across the void. Now those sparks had returned, guided by one of their own who no longer fit entirely within their definition of human. Kai stood on the palace terrace as the newcomers disembarked, feeling both welcome and alien in his own skin. The well pulsed faintly underfoot, as though aware that something fragile was about to begin. The first to approach was Captain Elena Mendez. commander of the Astra Vale. Her boots rang against the crystalline floor, her posture crisp, eyes sharp with the strain of long travel. "Dr. Kai Serin," she said formally, though the title sounded uncertain. "It's been 3 years since your ship vanished. Command had you listed as presumed lost." Kai smiled faintly. "I guess I took the scenic route." Her gaze flicked to the well, then to Sira standing nearby. "And found company." Sira inclined her head, unbothered by the scrutiny. "You stand in the heart of Erindal," she said, her voice even. "This world has endured more endings than your kind has words for. Speak gently within its walls." Elena blinked, clearly recalibrating. "Noted." The initial contact unfolded under a veil of tension and awe. Scientists deployed instruments that hummed and clicked, mapping energy signatures they couldn't comprehend. The Erindal observed with quiet patience, their glowing eyes reflecting curiosity rather than hostility. Kai moved between them, translator and mediator, his voice carrying the calm authority of one who straddled both worlds. "Treat their technology as alive," he told the humans, "because it is. It remembers intention, not command." When a technician scoffed, Sira simply gestured, and the floor beneath his feet shifted into rippling light until he stepped back in apology. The message required no translation. At night, Kai stood alone on the terraces watching the horizon. The faint light of the reborn star spread across the sky, reflecting off the city's crystal veins. He could feel the well beneath him still breathing in rhythm with his heart. It was no longer a power he wielded, it was a partner, subtle and steady. Yet something in its pulse had changed since the human's arrival, an undercurrent of warning or anticipation. When Sira joined him, silent as always, he spoke without turning. "It feels restless," she nodded. "It senses imbalance. Your people carry patterns of discord old and strong. The well remembers their shape." "You think we'll break this world?" he asked. "I think," she said, "you will test whether it can bend." Over the following weeks, integration efforts began. The humans constructed temporary habitats near the lower terraces, carefully avoiding the ancient growths of crystalline flora that had begun reclaiming the landscape. Sira's people shared limited knowledge, enough to build harmony generators that stabilized local fields, but not enough to endanger the balance. Kai served as the link, guiding both sides through misunderstandings that flared like sparks. Once, a human drone tried to extract a shard of the well's outer layer for study. The resulting energy backlash vaporized it mid-air. Elena confronted him afterward. "We're here to learn," she said, frustration cutting through her usual discipline. "Not worship." He met her gaze steadily. "Then learn respect first. Curiosity without balance is what created the mile." She studied him for a long time before asking quieter, "Is it true what the crew's saying? That you stopped that thing?" He hesitated. "I didn't stop it. I convinced it to rest," she frowned. "Oh, you make that sound almost merciful." "It needed mercy," he said. "We all do eventually." After that, her tone softened. She began walking the city with him, asking questions not just about the technology, but the people, the songs they used to shape matter, the memories etched into their architecture. He found himself enjoying her company more than expected. Her skepticism grounded him, reminded him of who he had been before the well's light rewrote his limits. Sira noticed, of course, though she said nothing. Her silence carried an old wisdom. Every bridge must decide what it connects and what it divides. One evening, as the three of them stood at the palace's highest balcony, the horizon trembled. It was subtle at first, a flicker in the light, a pulse out of rhythm. Then the air rippled, and Kai's blood ran cold. "That's not possible," he murmured. Sira's gaze sharpened. "The male." He nodded, though the word felt wrong. The echo he sensed was different, thinner, scattered, like shards of the storm's consciousness finding their way back. "Fragments," he whispered. "Pieces of it survived." Elena drew her weapon instinctively, though what she expected to shoot at in a world of energy and thought, even she didn't seem to know. "Can it come back?" she asked. "Not the same," Kai said. "But if enough fragments align—" Yes, that night the city's song faltered. Energy currents stuttered, lights dimming in waves. The well's pulse grew uneven beneath the palace. Sira convened her council, luminous figures flickering with anxious energy. "The storm remembers the tune," she told them. "It seeks to rewrite it." Kai stood beside her, every nerve on edge as he felt the familiar hunger at the edge of perception. The male's remnants were drawn to him like gravity. "It knows me," he said quietly. "It knows what I became." Sira's expression softened, sorrow flickering through her eyes. "Then it also knows what you can do." "That's what I'm afraid of," he replied. Outside, the horizon shimmered again. Thin threads of pale energy laced the air, converging toward the city like spider silk. Wherever they touched, matter quivered. Stone turning translucent, air vibrating with harmonic distortion. Elena's voice crackled through the comm systems. "Containment fields are failing across sectors. We've got interference on all channels." Kai closed his eyes, reaching inward. The well's pulse flared in response, flooding his senses with warmth. The connection was instant and overwhelming, the world's awareness rising to meet his own. He felt every tremor, every fluctuation. "It's trying to rejoin," he said aloud, "to rebuild itself through resonance. Can you stop it?" Sira asked. He opened his eyes, their glow returning for the first time since his rebirth. Maybe, but not alone. The humans responded first, their instincts driving them toward action. Energy projectors flared to life along the lower tiers, tracing blue arcs across the skyline. Eleanor directed her crew from the command spire, her voice calm but urgent. "All units maintain harmonic frequency 9-7. We match his signal, not fight it." Sira joined Kai at the palace heart, hands hovering above the well's surface. "The fragments are using your pattern as a beacon," she said. "They believe you are their core." "Then I'll give them one," he answered. Closing his eyes, he sank his awareness into the well until the physical world dissolved. Light met him like a tide, familiar and infinite. He reached for the echoes clawing at the edge of existence and called to them, not with command but with invitation. The response came in waves. Fractured voices, distorted and uncertain, filled his mind. "We remember. We hunger. We are lost." He steadied his breathing, shaping his thoughts into clarity. "You are not the storm anymore. You can stop consuming." The voices wailed, flickering through anger, confusion, sorrow. He pushed deeper past the chaos until he found the first spark of recognition, the faint memory of harmony that had birthed the Arundel's song. "Remember who you were," he whispered. Around him, the fragments began to slow, their resonance shifting toward coherence. Sira watched from the chamber's edge as the well's light spread outward, turning the entire city into an instrument tuned by will. Above, the storm threads converged into a single spiral, suspended over the palace. The humans' harmonic generators stabilized, feeding the growing field of light. Elena's voice reached him through static. "It's working! Containment stable at 70%. But the success was short-lived. A surge ripped through the network as one of the generators overloaded, exploding into shards of molten metal. The resonance faltered. Kai felt the fragments strain, slipping back toward entropy. Sira shouted over the rising hum. "They can't hold the pattern." He grit his teeth, forcing his mind to expand further. The well roared within him, pushing the limits of his humanity. "Then I'll hold it." The world vanished into sound. Every molecule around him vibrated in perfect symmetry. He was no longer body or thought but waveform, a note suspended between creation and collapse. Through that field, he reached the humans and Arundel alike, merging their frequencies into one unified chord. For a heartbeat, all life on the planet shared a single breath. The storm froze midair, threads of energy crystallizing into light. Kai's consciousness burned white-hot, too vast to contain. In that blinding instant, he saw how fragile existence truly was, held together not by power but by choice. When the light faded, the storm was gone. Only silence remained, deep and clean. The sky cleared, revealing stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. The city below shimmered, reborn once more. Sira rushed to the well, finding Kai kneeling at its edge, eyes closed, chest still. She caught him before he fell forward, feeling the faint pulse beneath his ribs. "Kai," she whispered, shaking him gently. His eyes opened, dim but alive. "Did it hold?" he asked. "It did," she said, voice trembling. "You saved them all." He smiled faintly. "Not all. Just enough." Then he slumped into her arms, unconscious but breathing. Days passed before he woke. The humans had repaired their damaged systems. The Arundel songs filled the air once again. Elena visited daily, her usual composure replaced by quiet reverence. "You turned an extinction event into a symphony," she told him when he finally stirred. He tried to sit up, wincing. I just listened to the right notes. That's leadership, she said. Even if it looks like madness. Sira entered soon after, her presence softening the room. You are stable now, she said. The well sleeps within you. He met her gaze. And if it wakes, then you will know, she said simply. And so will we. Later, as the humans prepared to depart, Kai walked with Sira along the terrace where their paths had first crossed. The reborn star painted the palace in gold. They'll be back, he said quietly. Humans always return to what they don't understand. Perhaps, Sira replied, but now they will return with a story worth remembering. He nodded, glancing toward the horizon where the last of the storm had vanished. Do you ever wonder what comes after stories like this? Continuation, she said. Not ending. He smiled at that. Spoken like someone who spent too long near a human. When night came, he stood once more by the well. Its surface reflected the stars, each point of light steady and alive. He could feel the remnants of the miles scattered across the cosmos, not gone but transformed, peaceful. The well's voice whispered faintly through his mind, You have done what we could not. You chose harmony over control. He closed his eyes, letting the warmth of that truth sink deep. I just remembered what it feels like to be human, he murmured. The well pulsed once, a heartbeat of light, and then grew still. Outside, the city sang softly into the night, a new melody built from everything that had been broken and remade. And for the first time, the world of Erindal dreamed. The world healed slowly, as all living things do when given silence and time. Seasons began to return to Erindal, not seasons as Earth had known them, but cycles of color and vibration that swept across the land like tides of music. The air carried warmth again, laced with pollen light from crystalline flora. The once shattered spires of the capital now stood whole, their translucent veins glowing with the rhythm of the restored well. At night, the city sang, and its song drifted beyond the atmosphere, carried on frequencies meant for no one and everyone at once. Humanity listened. They built receivers on their ships, and when the melody reached them, even those who did not believe in miracles paused to breathe. Kai lived at the edge of the palace gardens, in a chamber that overlooked the valley of first growth. From his window, he could see the new life spreading where black glass had once sealed the ground. He spent his days guiding those who came, humans, Erindal, and hybrids born of both, teaching them how to speak with intention rather than dominance. His nights were quieter. He still dreamed of the Mael sometimes, though the visions no longer frightened him. The storm had become a teacher in those dreams, showing him fragments of forgotten balance. Each time he woke, he wrote what he remembered in thin notebooks, their pages filled with sketches of patterns that hummed when touched. You keep making maps of the invisible, Sira teased once. He smiled. Maybe the invisible wants to be seen, Sira visited often. She moved differently now, lighter, as if the burden of her people's guilt had finally eased. Together they tended to the new crystal trees, coaxing them into forms that shaded and shimmered, creating corridors of living light. Sometimes they argued gently about the role humans would play in the new order. They'll want to build, he'd say. To explore, to test, to own. And you'll stop them? She would ask. No, he'd answer. I'll remind them to listen. Their friendship had grown into something deeper than alliance but quieter than romance, built on the shared act of rebuilding a broken world. One evening, as the first dusk fell under the reborn star, Elena returned aboard a smaller vessel. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Terran Council, though her demeanor carried something far older, humility. She found Kai near the well, studying its calm surface. Command wants to formalize contact, she said. Trade, research, maybe a colony initiative. He didn't look up. They'll need Erindal's consent. They'll have it, she said, if you stand with them. He sighed. You think I can still speak for either side? You're the only one who can, she said. You're proof that both can survive the same song. He turned then, meeting her gaze. That's a dangerous kind of proof. Maybe, she said, smiling faintly, but it's the kind that writes history. That night, the council met with the Erindal elders in the palace amphitheater. The gathering shimmered with light and sound, humans in sleek uniforms standing beside beings of luminescence whose very voices shaped the air. Kai spoke for both. We were different once, he began, his voice carrying through the vast hall. A U-shaped worlds through harmony. We reshaped ourselves through struggle. Both paths broke us in their own ways. The well has shown that balance isn't born. It's chosen again and again. His words resonated not through amplification, but through understanding. Even the walls seemed to lean in to listen. When he finished, silence followed, not empty but full of thought. Then Sira rose and said simply, "We accept." The hall erupted in a soft harmonic chord, a sound that felt like dawn breaking. Later, when the formalities ended, Kai walked alone through the city. He passed humans sharing food with Arindal artisans, children chasing drifting motes of light that giggled when caught. The sight filled him with quiet pride, but also with unease. Harmony was fragile. History, even rewritten, had a way of repeating its verses. As he crossed the terrace, the well pulsed once beneath his feet, gentle, almost like reassurance. "You're watching," he murmured. A voice whispered faintly in his mind, "Always. But we do not lead. We listen." He smiled at that. "Good," he said, "because so will we." In the months that followed, the alliance grew. The first joint expeditions left Arindal's orbit, guided by both human navigation and Arindal harmonic beacons. Their destinations were not conquests but restorations, worlds once touched by the mile, still scarred by entropy. Kai watched each departure from the palace steps, the ships lifting on waves of light that sang faintly as they climbed. Each one carried a fragment of the well's resonance encoded in its hull, a promise that memory and creation could coexist. When the last vessel vanished into the stars, he felt pride, yes, but also the quiet ache of separation. "You made them dream again," Sira said beside him. "Dreams are fragile," he replied. "But they're also how we build tomorrow." The well had grown gentler since his awakening, its glow now a steady heartbeat instead of a storm. Sometimes he would sit beside it and feel it pulse against the world's rhythm, sensing echoes of distant songs, other wells perhaps, awakening across forgotten galaxies. He had once thought the well was a tool, then a burden, then a mirror. Now he saw it for what it was, a conversation that never truly ended. The line between human and divine had blurred, not in power but in understanding. He no longer feared what he'd become, because what he was could never be contained in a single definition. He was change itself, walking and breathing, remembering and forgetting exactly as humanity always had. One morning, while he and Sira tended to the crystal groves beyond the city, a sound reached them, soft, trembling, alive. A seedling near their feet had begun to sing. It was small, its tone uncertain but unmistakable. The first new life born of both species' resonance. Sira crouched beside it, her eyes wide with wonder. "It remembers us," she whispered. Kai smiled. "Then maybe we did something right." As the song grew, other seedlings joined it until the air shimmered with sound. The valley became a living choir, its voices rising toward the sunlight. He felt the well's distant hum join in, not leading, only answering. For the first time, the world's music didn't come from pain or restoration. It came from joy. Years passed. The alliance matured. Arindal became a place of pilgrimage, a testament not to human dominance but to cooperation without conquest. Scholars came to learn, not to take. Children of both worlds ran beneath the crystal trees, their laughter blending with the hum of the air. And through it all, Kai remained. His hair silvered, his voice softened, but his eyes still held the glow of the well's quiet fire. When people asked him what it felt like to drink from it, he would smile and say, "Like remembering something the universe forgot about itself." Few understood, but they always left changed. In the end, when his years began to fade, he asked to be taken to the well one last time. Sira, unchanged by age, carried him to the basin where it had all begun. The water shimmered softly, welcoming. "You could stay," she said quietly. "Become part of its song again." He shook his head. "No, the song needs silence between the notes or it loses meaning." She knelt beside him, her hand on his. "Then what should I tell them?" "Tell them," he said, eyes closing, "that we were never gods or saviors. Just listeners who finally heard what life was trying to say." His breath slowed, his heartbeat matching the well's final pulse. Light surrounded him, gentle, golden, and when it faded, he was gone. Sira remained beside the well long after, her reflection rippling in its surface. For a moment she thought she saw him standing within the glow, smiling, unburdened. Then the image dissolved into stars. The well's hum deepened, richer than before, carrying a new tone that spread through the city like dawn. The people looked up, understanding without words that the bridge between their worlds had not ended. It had become part of the foundation beneath their feet. Above, the reborn star shone brighter, casting warmth over everything it touched. The well whispered once more, its voice no longer separate from the wind. "You have no idea what you've become." And this time the words were not warning. They were wonder.